Shalom, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, all praises and double honors due to Yahweh, Bahashem Hamashiach, wa Malak Yahweh Shai. Secondly, this is Brother Yardan, WFI Detroit, coming back at you with yet another cold cut. And today in this cold cut, we'll be reading Acts, the 28th chapter. We won't read the entire chapter, but just here a little and there a little. Why? Well, I was reading this chapter earlier, and the Most High revealed unto me certain information that revolves around the title of this cold cut, which is Zodiac signs and Superstition. So it starts in Acts the 20th chapter. Superstition is also mentioned in other chapters in the book of Acts that we'll get to later in the video. But I digress because I want to dive right into it. So this is Acts the 28th chapter in the first verse. And when they were escaped, then they knew that the land was called Malta. And I want to pause real quick for the sake of knowledge, because when you read the scriptures, when you read chapters, when you read the book, when you read the entire Bible, it'll behoove you to understand the location, words that you don't know, and the people mentioned in that chapter or book. Like any other book that you'll read, it's your job and your duty as an audience to know the tone, the people, and location as well. They made you do that in school, even in college. So how much more the Holy Scriptures, which is your heritage? After all, the Lord said, be not ignorant of anything small or of a great matter. So I got it pulled up already. I did a little bit of researching prior to this video, so I have a few things prepared. Malta, I believe, is commonly referred to as Malta now, if I'm not mistaken, but nonetheless it is south of Italy, right under Syracuse. All right, this is a small ass island. This is where Paul is. And the barbarous people showed us no little kindness, for they kindled a fire and received us, every one, because of the present rain and because of the cold. Now, what happened was, when you read in Acts the 27th chapter, they were at shipwreck. Right, all hell broke loose. There's a certain wind called, here it is, Euroclydon. And it jammed them up. It jammed them up. And all that is really a spirit that man called the Euroclydon. The Most High, sent a spirit or an angel to kind of stir up the waters and the wind. And man called the Euroclydon. And barbarous people showed us no little kindness, for they kindled a fire and received us, every one, because of the present rain and because of the cold. So I would say this is probably the aftermath, or this is the aftermath, rather, of the weather from that tempestuous wind called Euroclydon. And when Paul had gathered a bundle of sticks and laid them on fire, there came a viper out of the heat and fastened on his hand. And when the barbarians, and barbarians is exactly what you may think they are, brute. They were kind of hostile. I would say ill-mannered, perhaps. They're kind of exactly how they're portrayed in the media, movies, TV shows, comic books. Paul is a witness, and he even says, and the barbarians showed us no little kindness. All right. So they weren't the most mannered. And when the barbarians saw the venomous beast hang on his hand, they said among themselves, no doubt this man is a murderer, whom though he hath escaped the sea, yet vengeance suffered not to live. And this is an example of being superstitious in a way. And you have certain brothers today, certain brothers joke about it, may joke about it here and there, but there's certain brothers, they take every little, what's the word I want to look for? Every little misfortune, for lack of better words, and say, oh, you got judged. Most High not dealing with you, right? For an example, a brother might drop his bag of Skittles. And a brother might say, oh, Most High not dealing with you, got judged. And in the same breath, we do understand the Most High has control over everything. But you don't want to be carnal and say the Most High is exacting judgment on this man by making him drop his Skittles. Sometimes people trip and they keep walking. That trip, brother, you don't want to be, you don't want your mind to go there automatically. You have to remember sometimes things do just happen on a lower level. And I'll get an example to prove that. This is Ecclesiastes 11:3. If the clouds be full of rain, they empty themselves upon the earth. And if the tree fall toward the south or toward the north, in the place where the tree falleth, there it shall be. And this is plain upon tables. It is what it is, right? There's no in-depth meaning or breakdown of parable behind this verse. It's telling you how life is. How life is. If the cloud get real puffed up, right, and dark, what happens next? It's going to rain, obviously, right? If the tree falls toward the south or the north, or even to the east or the west, it's going to lie there. Sometimes things just happen, right? So, if you believe otherwise, if you believe every little thing that happens is all hell breaking loose or judgment, then, you got to spiritually grow up in this thing. Spelled that wrong, but that's all right. And here's the synonyms for superstition. Salakia. Grab the tissue. Illusion, delusion, fallacy, credulity, right? I would say that falls into the category of being superstitious, right? You may believe in the Most High, but every little event that happens, you chalk it upon, you always blame it on something, You don't always want to blame every little thing that happens. Oh, that was the Most High. That was the Most High. Right? Again, we do understand He controls everything, but you got to understand there's levels to these things. All right. But I digress. I want to keep reading. And I brought that out just to say that that's how the barbarians was thinking. And he shook off the beast into the fire and felt no harm. Howbeit, they looked when he should have swallowed or fallen down dead suddenly. But after they had looked a great while and saw no harm come to him, they changed their mind and said that he was a god. So they're really showing their personality. They're showing themselves. They're superstitious, they double-minded, And the same quarters were possessions of the chief man of the island, whose name was Publius, who received us and lodged us 3 days courteously. And it came to pass that the father of Publius lay sick of fever. The father of Publius lay sick to a fever and of a bloody flu, to whom Paul entered in and prayed and laid his hands on him and healed him. So when this was done, others also which had disease in the island came and were healed, who also honored us with many honors. And when we departed, they laded us with such things as were necessary. In other words, they gave them everything that benefited them in their journeys, right? Especially to the next land. And landing at Syracuse, it's like I skipped 11. And after 3 months, we departed in a ship of Alexandria, which had wintered the isle, whose signs was Castor and Pollux. Who are these? What are these names? And this is what I looked into, because as you read, because as you read, it will behoove you to understand and know names, location, and words, right? So I looked into Castor and Pollux. This is the my Bible, and it says, so it is called Melita or Malta. Let me jump to 28 and 28 and 11. Figurehead. This Dioscuri, the twin brothers of Zeus. Right? Now I searched them up as well. Where is it at? Dioscuri were the star-crowned twin gods of St. Elmo's fire, an electrical discharge which appeared at the rigging of ships portending deliverance from a storm. They were god of horsemanship and protector of guests and travelers. So this is what they had on that island. They had and I believe that's the name, Alexandria. And in front of that ship, they had Castor and Pollux. And they believed that they were protectors and protectors of guests and travelers. All right. Let me go to the next one. Castor and Pollux were twin brothers in Greek and Roman mythology. Together they are called Dioscuri. And it tells us that in the margins as well. They were the sons of Queen Leda and Sparta. Their twin sisters were Helen and Troy and Clytemnestra. Castor and Pollux were changed into the constellation called Gemini. All right. So let's do some more searching. The name Gemini is Latin for twins and refers to Castor and Pollux in classical mythology. We already read that. All right. So they had Gemini on their ship. And that's a Greek god. All right, so when you participate in that Zodiac, bull malarkey, that Zodiac folly, you ultimately worship another gods and acknowledging false gods. All right, because that's essentially what they are. That's what they are, false gods. All right, Gemini, goes back to Castor and Pollux. All right, so when you say you're a Gemini, you're calling yourself. You're saying your sign is your sign is a damn. You're named after a god. That's your sign or whatever, right? You're associating yourself with a false god. All right, and I do want to mention this. And let me bring out this verse. There is truth in a tiny speck of truth behind that, right? And I don't want Jake to get offended. Oh, he said the truth in it. Brother, you gotta understand, there's a truth in a lot of things in the society, but Esau turns it to wickedness. So, let me read this. Second Maccabees 15 and 39. For as it is hurtful to drink wine and water alone, and as wine mingled with water is pleasant and delighteth the taste, even so speech finely framed. So I do my best to finely frame my words together by saying there's the history behind zodiac signs comes back to the Bible, or it's inspired from the Bible. But what Esau does is they take things in the scriptures and they turn it left. Right, that's seen all throughout time. This is Sirach 37 and 29. That's not it. Oh, 39. Let me see. Double fools. Sirach 39 to 27. All these things are good to the godly, so to the sinners they are turned into evil. Right. This also applies to now. Right? There's a lot of things that were made for good to the godly, but the sinners turned it to evil. Right? We can't even call it zodiac signs, but we know that there are those constellations in the sky. Right? We understand they're there, right? But we don't understand the deep hidden mystery and knowledge. It's hidden in mystery in a mystery to us now, but in the ancient world it wasn't to our forefathers. But now it is. So we don't understand that deep hidden mystery now. So when you claim that you do, you're going off, because you really don't fully understand the you really can't grasp the idea of it. I'll put it like that. I want to get 2nd Chronicles 32 and 12. 14. Slipped my mind. 12 and 32. Oh, it's 1st Chronicles. Slovakia. First Chronicles chapter 12, verse 32. And of the children of Issachar, which were men that had understanding of the times, to know what Israel ought to do, the heads of them were 200, and all their brethren were at their commandments. So they had the understanding of time, meaning they could look up to the sky and perceive, okay, this is when we have to sow, this is when we have to plow, this is when we have to pluck, this is where we have to go, this is where, it's going to be this weather or whatever next season. Is how it's going to look in a few weeks or days from now, by understanding and observing the motion of the stars, the constellations, and things that pertain to the heavens. But again, we don't have that now. All right. So in the beginning, the Lord, of course, as it says in Genesis, He made man. And when man was made in the beginning, He had a large number of years, but He slowly winded it down, right? And with that, He also winded down their knowledge and understanding and mysteries. Or he slowly kept shutting up the doors to know these hidden mysteries and knowledge. That's the best way I'll put it. What else did I want? Slovakia. Yeah, so now you have people, let me get out the scriptures. So now you have people saying they're a Gemini, now fully understanding what it means. Not that, we are Gemini and we're Pisces. I'm not saying that, but they don't understand the signs and the stars like they should. So when you do call yourself a Gemini, it's off, one, because Gemini is a false god, and two, you don't understand what you're saying or what you're talking about. And like the scriptures say, even in Sirach, if you don't have understanding, cover your mouth. I believe that's 5 and 14. Before I get that, I want to get Job 8 and 8. No, it's like, yeah, Job 9 and 8. I'll start at verse 7. Which commanded the sun, and it riseth not, and sealeth up the stars, which alone spreadeth out the heavens, and treadeth upon the waves of the sea, which maketh Arcturus, Orion, and Pleiades in the chambers of the south. Let's Google these. Where you see that these are constellations. That's Satan trying to freeze up the laptop, but that's all right. You can Google them in your own time. Orion, Arcturus, Orion, Pleiades, and the chambers of the south, which doeth great things past finding out, yea, and wonders without number. So we have a strong understanding or strong belief that, there's some type of, I want to put it a certain way so Jake don't be simple. If you have ears to hear, then you will hear. But there's an understanding that the Most High, he made the constellations and the stars, that it was used for a reason. Right? He made them for a reason, for our benefits. And it tells us that in the book of Genesis as well. And God said, Genesis 1:14, and God said, let there be lights to the firmament of heaven, and divided the day from the night, and let them be for signs and seasons, and for days and years. So therefore, understanding the days, the years, and the seasons. And I would say, among other things that we just don't have knowledge of. And I won't dare to utter, things that's not in the scriptures. But as a mortal man, I will think only because, let me see, what's it going to get? Revelation 22:1, and he shewed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of God and of the Lamb, in the midst of the street of it. We know this isn't actual literal, but we have a breakdown on this on another channel. Was there a tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month, and the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. This is going into the constellations and the things in the stars in the sky. All right, but again, not even this is black and white into us. We just have understanding that it will be utilized in a kingdom. But is it to be utilized now? No, it's not the time. Neither is it the season to dive head into this astrology. Make sure I'm saying that right. That's Satan. What the hell? Alright, so you got that. I believe there's a slight, I think a big difference between these two, if I'm not mistaken. Astronomy is the study of the universe and its continents outside of Earth's atmosphere. Astronomers examine the position, motions, and properties in celestial objects. Astrology attempts to study how those positions, motions, and properties affect people. Yeah, we don't deal with astrology. We're not dealing with astrology, if I have that correct, because we don't have the knowledge to understand how they affect people and the events on Earth. what is that? That's second. It's like that's Wisdom of Solomon, 19 and 11. No, 9 and 11. Oh, set up 14. 9 and 14. 13. For what man is he that can know the counsel of God, or who can think that the will of the Lord is? For the thoughts of mortal men are miserable, and our devices but uncertain. See, there are devices and are but uncertain, and the thoughts of mortal men are miserable. Right? And it's their thoughts to try to understand and grasp the idea of the positions and emotions. Whereas one thing, examining and kind of calculating the emotions, but it's another trying to figure out how they actually affect people and the events on earth. For the corruptible body presseth down the soul, and the earthly tabernacle weighteth down the mind that musteth upon many things. And hardly do we guess aright at things that are upon earth, and with labor do we find the things that are before us, but the things that are in heaven who hath searched out. I get one more precept. This is the book of Romans, the 11th chapter. This is Romans 11 and 33. Oh, the depth of the riches, both of the wisdom and knowledge of God. How unsearchable are his judgments and his ways past finding out. For who hath known the mind of the Lord? Or who hath been his counselor? Or who hath first given to him, and it shall be recompensed unto him again? For of him and through him and to him are all things, to be the glory of God. Amen. See that? It's Amos 5. Seek him that maketh the 7 stars, and Orion, and turneth the shadow of death into the morning, and maketh the dark with the night, that is called the waters of the sea, and poureth them out upon the face of the earth. The Lord is his name. So it's 7 stars and Orion. And the Lord asked Job, canst thou bind the sweet influences of Pleiades, or loose the bands of Orion? Let's see what happens if we Google it. But that's what we call Orion's belt. That's what they call Orion's belt. Yeah, it's not it's not our job to kind of figure out, okay, well, it look like he's doing this because he got the bow because of this, and when we see this and this happens, that's not for us to be doing that. The Lord just hey, keep the commandments, right? And all the rest shall be given unto you in the kingdom. So with that, I'm going to bid Israel shalom and stay strong, and don't fall into superstition and idolatry, because that's essentially what it's going into. So I'm going to bring out 2 more precepts. This is Acts 17. (17 22). Then Paul stood in the midst of Mars Hill and said, Ye men of Athens, I perceive that in all things ye are too superstitious. There was nothing new under the sun. Men were superstitious back then, as they are today in this present world. This is Wisdom of Solomon 13:01. Surely vain are all men by nature who are ignorant of God and cannot out the good things that are seen, know him that is, neither by considering the works did they acknowledge the workmaster, but deemed either fire or wind or the swift air or the circle of the stars. Right? You have a lot of our people, they seen the stars and they seen, how wonderful the Lord made things and set it up perfectly. And they ran to it. And they started worshiping the works instead of the works master. Right? That's another reason that you shouldn't fall and dive in and look into, astronomy? Zodiac signs, I'll put it like that. Or the violent waters, the lights of heaven, to be the gods which govern the world. And people actually believe that they govern the world. And they govern you. Right? They govern your world. And I'm doing Gemini just because that's the main one we've been looking up. You got horoscopes too. A forecast of a person's future, typically including the delineation of a character and circumstances based on the relative positions of the stars and planets at the time of the person's birth. Let me show Israel some. Now, this is what you call your so-called horoscope of today. And who's doing this? Who's doing this? Esau, right? I ain't going to bother reading all of this, but they're saying things that might sound vague, and perhaps it might be relatable to you or your life, whatever. But nonetheless, it's nothing that you should venture off into. I don't care how relatable or whatever. You don't want to venture off into that, right? You get into that, and then you're looking up this, and then that. And then you got a spirit on you, and you don't even know it. So don't let these stars govern your world. Wisdom of Solomon. And then people start acting based off what is written, right? And the people that's in charge, that has rule over all these things regarding the knowledge of the stars, is Esau. And the Lord said in Ezekiel, what is that? See, it's throwback. I gotta find it. Let me pull it up again. It's in the cut. (47-13). He said, thou, is that when I start? I'll start at 12. Stand now with thine enchantments and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth, Esau. If so be, thou shalt be able to profit. If so be, thou mayest prevail. This is the Lord talking smack. Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers and stargazers and monthly prognosticators. These are the people that have rule and authority and in charge of typing these things out, hoping that you believe on it. So now you believe in false gods, you believe in Esau, all hell breaking loose in your mind and in your temple. I've really heard a stargazer. Damn, a daydreamer, an impractical idealist. Oh boy. And you got astrologers. Astrology is the pseudoscience that claims to divine information about human affairs and terrestrial events by studying the movements and relative positions of planets and stars, more than likely. Thou shalt prevail. Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now astrologers, the stargazers, and monthly prognosticators stand up. And monthly prognosticators are weathermen, and save thee from the things that shall come to pass. All right, so none of these things, they're not going to help in terms of, you believing that it's going to it's affecting your life big time. That, look, none of this is not profitable. It's just not profitable right now. Monthly prognosticator, spelled that wrong, predicts the future based on a forecaster, predictor, soothsayer. What did the Lord say about soothsayers? Oops. Oh, don't let me find it. It's on the tip of my tongue. Slipped my mind. What does it say? Damn it. Oh, gotta get the classic. They're both good, but this is what I want. And the soul that turneth after such as have familiar spirits and after wizards to go after them, I will even set my face against that soul and cut him off from among his people. Regard not them that have familiar spirits, neither seek after wizards to be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God. I remember it. Okay, I won't get it. I'll close out with Wisdom of Solomon 13. With whose beauty, if they being delighted, took them to be gods, let them know how much better the Lord of them is, for the first author of beauty hath created them. But if they were astonished at their power and virtue, let them understand by them how much mightier he is that made them. For by the greatness and beauty of the creatures, proportionately the maker of them is seen. But yet for this they are the less to be blamed, for they peradventure err seeking God, and desires to find him. Right? So they fall short seeking God. They might believe in God, but they look into the astrology and astronomy, really. And then you fell short through finding out the Most High. You fell short. That was your stumbling block. For being conversant in his works, they search him diligently. And that's true. Being conversant in his works, they search him diligently. They look at the stars. They're like, okay, the Most High is real. And believe their sight, because the things are beautiful that are seen, howbeit neither are they to be pardoned. For if they were not able to know so much that they could aim at the world, how did they not sooner find out the Lord thereof? And that's why a lot of scientists, they believe in the Most High. Because through all their studies and research, they sit down and ask themselves at the end, damn, somebody made this. But some people, they don't come to that conclusion. And the rest of the chapter is pretty beautifully written. But I will end it on that. And in bidders or shalom, stay away from all that folly.